Hello and welcome to my second video about the Lawbreakers beta. Last time we talked about the Gunslinger, and this time we're gonna talk about the Battle Medic. The Battle Medic has two different kinds of weapons. The first one is a grenade launcher called LAWBREAKERS, and it has two fire modes. The first one is a normal grenade launcher variant, and the second one is one that allows you to actually let your grenades ricochet off from a wall or from the floor, for example. Your secondary weapon is a burst fire pistol called Firefly, and it's basically a backup, especially when you don't want to use the grenade launcher and blow yourself up by shooting upwards at an enemy that is somehow above you in a low gravity area. So how do you get around the map with the Battle Medic, you may ask yourself. Basically, this class has a hover pack, which basically allows you to hover above the ground or fly upwards. To be honest, it's a little bit slow, but it's very easy to get from point A to point B, especially if you have one friendly player who you want to heal and then get to the next one to heal. It's a rather easy to control way to maneuver over the map. So basically, there's not a big problem with it being rather slow, like at least compared to some other classes, but it's fine, like it's balanced. The ultimate is a defense grid, which is basically like a sphere around you that heals players, and it also blocks bullets from the outside and from the inside. So basically you can use it for reloading, for example, but usually you don't want to shoot the grenades inside of the bubble because you will just hurt yourself. The advantages of the class are that it's currently in a unique position, that it's one of the only support classes and basically the only healer class. The other thing is, it's very easy to support teammates by keeping them in the action longer, by healing them. They basically don't have to get away to heal themselves. They can stay in the action, they still fight, they don't have to go back to go to a healing station, for example. The other thing is, the grenade launcher allows for indirect attacks and to stay away from direct battle. So you can basically ricochet grenades into the enemy's spot or spawn, not spawn directly, but into the battery position, for example, to allow your team to get the battery by the confusion that is happening because of your grenades spamming all over the map, for example. The other thing is, the character itself is very useful when used directly on objective points, especially when defending, because you can basically use your ultimate to defend against enemies, because they have to either get into your bubble and then probably die from something, or stay outside and you can probably reload or decide when you want to go outside and shoot. So basically you can use it very defensively in that case. The disadvantages of the class are basically you die very quickly when you're left alone by teammates. The problem is, the Battle Medic can basically heal itself, but when you're alone as a medic, as in any other class, you don't have as much firepower as, for example, the Titan or the Gunslinger or the Enforcer, which basically forces you to stay together with teammates. And for all the teammates that left me alone during the beta as a medic, I healed you, then you ran away and I died. I will not heal you anymore, seriously. Never leave your medic alone. If he heals you, just stay with him, or stay at least in the nearby area to probably defend him. He will probably play the objective, I guess. If he doesn't, then, well, it's his fault. Hovering is one of the slower means to travel compared to other characters, but it's basically fine. For me, it's a disadvantage, especially if you want to get into the fight fast and get out of a fight fast. The problem is, with the grenade launcher, you're usually not the one to actually do that. You're basically one who stays rather out of the battle or at the side of the battle. Unless you're in a defending position, then you're in the middle of it. The other thing is, the defensive grid is very limited to specific defensive situations. I hardly ever used it in an aggressive way, because you're not dealing damage with it, you're just defending yourself, and most of the time you just use it to reload, maybe heal a little bit, and then go into the fight again. So what is my experience with the Battle Medic? For me, it adds another layer of team play on top of the game that I didn't see in the alpha or during the alpha. Basically, it allows you to actually have a healer, like a class that is less about dealing damage, as most other classes are, but to also like help your teammates indirectly and directly by healing them, by defending them and stuff like that. The character has to use the backup gun to be effective in mid-air and to reliably hit enemies. It's not possible for the character to actually always stick to the first gun. Just like the Titan, you always have to switch the weapon for specific situations, and I actually like that. It basically means that you have to also adapt to your playstyle. You have to learn both weapons to be very reliable in all places on the maps. The other thing is, the character is especially fun when used in groups of friends. So basically, if you have friends who are in TeamSpeak with you or are using voice over IP, then you can basically tell them, hey, I need a medic or I need heal, and then you can come back and you can basically play together a lot more. It's not working in public that well, but it's fine. The other thing is, if you're a less aggressive player and you have a less aggressive play style and you're a supportive player, then this is basically your class. You're not all about dealing damage. You can also do that, but you are more like, I stay a little bit out of sight and I try to heal the other players in my team to keep them in the action. The other thing is, the character is very fun to play, but you have to get into the right mindset of not being the frontline soldier to solely deal a lot of damage. You're the one who keeps your team alive, who keeps your team at the objective, especially when the enemy has the battery, for example, or the enemy has a lot of enemy players on a specific spot. You keep them alive. They can back away from the fight, you can heal them, and then they can go back into the fight without dying or without going to a healing pod. And that is the thing I was very bad at learning. I was very slow at learning. I was going inside expecting I can hit and kill enemies just as I could with a Titan, with an Enforcer, with a Vanguard, or any other class in the game. But it's a little bit harder. Like, you have the advantage of healing your teammates and healing yourself, but you also have the problem of not dealing so much damage, so you will probably die to a Titan, to a Gunslinger, or anything else if you're not sticking to your team. And for me, that's a good thing. That basically gets the game away from the basic idea I had at the start of the alpha, which was basically every class has a lot of damage and it's just about killing the enemy, getting to the objective, killing the enemy, getting to the objective. It's basically another way to play the game, to be more of a supportive character instead of being a damage character as most of the other classes are. Basically, I want to see more characters going into this niche, basically characters that allow to help my teammates and not just myself. So I hope there will be more in the next beta. I mean, there was another class that was basically locked in the first beta, but we could already see a little bit about him. I'm very curious, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.